What happens when a person is drowning in debt and help arrives too late? We're going to talk about a heartbreaking story that shook the UK and should be a wake-up call to all of us. This photo will be the last one captured of a single parent who was ultimately failed by the system and felt like there was no way out minutes before they took their own life. This is Phillip Herron. This heartbreaking image, it went viral. In his final words, he said, "My kids would be better off without me," before taking his last breath on March 18th, 2019. Today, we're breaking down what happened to Phillip, why it could happen to any of us, and how we can prevent financial despair from spiraling into tragedy.
In the quiet shadows of our society, one question pierces the silence. What drives a person to the brink of despair? This documentary delves into the tragic tale of Phillip Herron, a life marred by overwhelming societal pressure, personal struggles, and an environment that offered little solace. Phillip Herron's story begins in a world where the weight of expectations can crush even the strongest spirit. Behind his external calm, Phillip battled inner demons that few ever saw. His struggle was a silent, relentless force, a battle against personal challenges layered with the pressures imposed by a society quick to judge and slow to help. As we piece together the timeline of his last days, we uncover a narrative that speaks not only of an individual tragedy, but also of a broader failure to address mental health with the care it desperately needs. Archival footage and expert testimonies lead us into the heart of the investigation. In Act 1, we meet Phillip through the lens of his own experiences and the memories of those who cared for him. His journey was marked by moments of vulnerability that gradually escalated into a crisis. In personal reflections and documented evidence, we witness how the burden of unmet expectations and isolation fostered a sense of hopelessness in his life. A persistent inner conflict brewed.
So who was Phillip? Phillip Herron was a 34-year-old single father of three living in Durham, England. He wasn't lazy, irresponsible, or addicted to anything. He was just trying to keep his head above water, supporting his kids, working when he could, and trying to stay afloat financially after a tough separation. He worked as a factory worker before becoming a full-time caregiver for his kids.
In this segment, the analysis delves into how societal pressures, manifested through stigmatization of mental health, lack of supportive networks, and persistent judgments, wove a complex web around Phillip. His personal challenges, while deeply personal, were only amplified by systemic issues. Expert opinions shed light on how environmental factors, compounded by long-standing societal expectations, can push a person toward crisis. The voices of mental health professionals gently remind us of the urgency in addressing these underlying issues in our communities. Throughout the investigation, we witness a tension that captures the essence of Phillip's internal battle. The conflict is not one of right versus wrong, but of overwhelming circumstances versus the resilience of a human spirit. Sometimes simple actions, words of encouragement, or a compassionate gesture might have altered the course of his story. Yet, the complexity of his struggles was a stark reminder of how fragile the human condition can be when left unaddressed.
What I need people to understand here is Phillip could be any of us. He could seriously be any of us. A dad, a mom, a student, someone working two jobs but still not making enough. It isn't about poor choices. It's about a broken system and lack of support. And it's sad. So it was piled up, no buffer, and he pounded on mounting stress. He spiraled deeper into despair. He took out payday loans to cover basic needs for food, rent, electricity. But these loans had sky high interest, some over 1,000% APR. Eventually, he nearly owed $20,000 in debt. He reached out for government help by applying for universal credit, but he was told he had to wait 5 weeks for the first payment. I mean, just imagine asking for help, being in the red every day, and being told to wait over a month. How are you supposed to eat tonight? Feed your kids tomorrow. This is why financial literacy and emergency planning is crucial. Even though I know it's hard when you're already behind, it's also why policy changes is an important as it is, as well as personal responsibility, right? So, one thing I want you to know is that Philip actually kept his struggles hidden. He didn't want to burden anyone. He posted online about mental health and debt, but his pain stayed mostly invisible. He bottled everything up. No one around him knew how bad things had gotten. So this right here highlights a dangerous truth. Many in crisis stay silent. By the time his mom found out he was dealing with this, it was already too late. And he had passed away with just $4.61 in his bank account. Let's be real here. This can happen to anyone. A few late bills, a missed paycheck, and suddenly something is drawing high interest loans just to keep food on the table. Maybe you've been someone who has missed paycheck with maybe a one missed paycheck away from $1,000 overdraft, or you took out a high interest loan thinking you fix it next week. I get it. It happens. For example, there's two cases here. Case one, Joe's debt spiral. He borrowed $2,000 from payday lenders, paid $6,000 back in fees. The lesson learned was always check APR. Some lenders charge three-digit interest annually. Case two, Sarah's emergency. She lost a job for 2 weeks, maxed her credit cards, missed rent. Her lesson, let's see what she faced. She faced eviction. Her lesson was small emergency funds like 500, 1,000. It makes a huge difference. So if we were to take a look at the statistics from this report here, this report is from responsiblelending.org. You're more than welcome to always go to their website to check this out. So I don't know if you guys know this, but payday lenders take $2.4 billion in fees from borrowers in 1 year. 1 year. That is a lot, you guys, in a single year from low-income borrowers. In 2022 alone, borrowers took out over $20 million for a total of nearly $8.6 billion because reliable estimates of online payday lending volumes are not publicly available. These figures primarily reflect storefront lending and a true cost of payday loans, which is likely significantly higher than this. So through storefront and online, these predatory lenders continue to trap millions of Americans in debt and stifle economic growth in states without debt trap protections. And I want to show you something here. So this is called Down the Drain, payday lenders. It breaks it down into this PDF, right? But they also break it down by state. So you can always, again, go to this website, download this PDF, and just take a look to see where your state ranks. Like the numbers are, they are astounding, let me tell you. But You can always download this PDF, come read through this so you can get an understanding of how this works and what you can do to make sure that you don't be someone who falls into this type of trap. And as a matter of fact, let me pull up the universal credit on the UK's government website. And we're going to go into some details here. Let's see. Okay, so it basically breaks it down. It tells you what the universal credit is, right? It says it's a payment to help you with your living costs. It's paid monthly or twice monthly for some people in Scotland. Basically, it is replacing housing benefit, income support, income-based job seeker allowance, income-related employment, and support allowance, right? And then it lets you know how you can be eligible for it. So if you're out of work, so according to Philip's situation, he was out of work. Or if you're working, so you can be someone who's also working, including self-employed or part-time, or someone who is unable to work. To claim you must live in the UK, we do know that he did live in the UK, be 18 years or older. Well, he was over 18, he was 34 years old. Be under state pension age, have 16 or thousand or less in money savings and investment. Well, we know he has significantly less than that. Then he gets into if you live with a partner, which he was a single parent. And so this one really doesn't speak on that, but it goes into what you will get, your standard allowance, an extra amount that applied to you, any money taken off your payment. And if you're working, you can find out how much you would earn by the benefits calculator. And it gets into the extra amount. Here it is, if you have children. Well, judging from what we saw, he had 3 little children. Definitely they all look like they're under the age of 12 years old. How much you'll get, it breaks down for the firstborn, the second, and any other eligible kids. So if he was claiming 3 or more, then the child would have to have been born before April 6th of 2017, right? And so it lets him know what he would get as far as child care costs, and if the child has a disability. Seems good so far, right? How your wages affect your payment, so it breaks that down. So it looks like it breaks down everything that someone would need to know if they ever fell into Philip's situation. Now, one thing I do notice right off the bat, your first payment, it says it usually takes around 5 weeks to get your first payment. So this is a problem, right? And that was Philip's situation. He had to wait a month or a little over that, and he was in a dire situation where he needed that now. So for people who need things like right away, you know, it's unfortunate that things happened the way that it did. But if we break it down, he had a 5-week wait for financial help. That's hard already. High interest predatory loans that he was taking out. He had no financial education or support network. He was closed in. He dealt with mental health, no emergency savings, and delayed crisis intervention. And that would drive anyone crazy, right? Well, we need to ask hard questions. Why are people waiting 5 weeks for help they need right now? And why are payday loans even legal with 1,000% interest? Why don't more people know how compound interest works or how to negotiate with creditors? So we're going to go ahead and get into the final part of this short documentary, and I'll come back and go over some ways to prevent this type of situation and things you can do to help yourself. We now approach Act 3, where the investigation pulls its pieces together.
As we reflect on Phillip Herron's fate, we are presented with a sobering conclusion. The tragedy of one individual is intertwined with the broader tapestry of societal neglect when it comes to mental health. The evidence gathered does more than recount his last days. It paints a picture of a society that must learn to listen more closely and reach out more compassionately. The investigative path we traversed reveals that understanding and addressing these pressures is crucial if we are to prevent future tragedies. Our respectful examination urges each of us to look inward and ask hard questions about the cultural norms that shape our responses to mental health crises. The legacy of Phillip Herron challenges us to foster a community where emotional well-being is prioritized, and the struggles of individuals are met with empathy rather than judgment. This documentary does not offer simple answers or a quick fix. It instead calls on us to reflect deeply on how our society supports those in crisis. Share this video to spark a needed conversation on mental health and societal pressures.
I just want to say something before I go into this next segment. Philip should still be here. His kids should still have their father. Philip's passing, it did spark widespread outrage, and it echoed across the community as part of a broader pattern of despair affecting vulnerable people across different demographics. This one hits me. That photo of him crying in the car, that he didn't want to unalive himself. He just didn't see any other option. Philip's story is a warning, is a call to action. We can't bring him back, but we can honor him by making sure that this doesn't happen to ourselves or the next person in silence. So I want to get into real life steps that people can take to avoid the same outcome. So the first option is to create an emergency fund, okay? Even $10, $20 a month. If you don't have 500 or 1,000, you can use automatic transfers. You can start small if you don't have it, okay? Build that cushion 6 to 12 months over time. And you definitely want to avoid predatory loans and seek help early. I just want to speak on those loans, okay? They carry high interest rates. So you want to shift more so to credit unions or community-based alternatives. Typically, they have lower interest options and 0% cards, and you do not want to wait when you're seeking help. You can talk to charities, credit counselors. Don't wait until you're underwater, okay? That's the last thing you want to do. There's community resources, food banks, local charities. Reach out. There is help for you. Just reach out. And then we want to talk about your mental health. You want to talk about that to someone. Reach out to someone that you trust. You're not weak for struggling. Openly talk about money. Don't be ashamed. Reach out to a therapist if you need it. And then you can also push for policy changes. Some people don't do that. Vote. Make your voice heard. Support welfare reform. Speak up about systems that delay help. And then is another thing, I want to go into a couple of websites that can help. And this would be for like your budgeting and monitoring. This is why now they do offer a free trial for 34 days. That means you'll get a full month to see if you like it. There's no credit card required, okay? So they do have an app and it breaks down, what they are about. They pretty much help you budget, organize things that you pay for. It helps with your savings. So you definitely I would recommend that you try it out. You can come here, browse the features that it has. You can connect your bank, stay in sync by having it on multiple devices, your laptop, tablet. And you can also manage money in a group. Remember, like I said, you don't want to stay hidden about what's going on. You want to speak out to people you trust, partners, family, close-knit groups. And it's just for that one fee per month. And it could be a group of up to 6 people helping each other out, making sure that you stay up to date with things financially and that you're not financially drained. There are different templates you can use. If you have an iPhone, you can use your Apple Card import, customizable views, and mobile widgets. So you're not losing anything. So definitely come here and try out that 30-day free trial. And then the other one is called Mint. This is the other one by Intuit. Similar here. So to check it out, you can sign up and it does similar things as well. But these two resources, they are available. You don't necessarily have to do these two. There are other resources out there too that can help with budgeting and monitoring. So I'm not saying that you necessarily have to do those, okay? But speak out, you know, you don't have to have it all figured out because nobody does. We're all trying to figure it out together. But it's one step that can change everything. One phone call, one honest conversation, one decision not to hide anymore. So if you're watching this and you're struggling, please hear me. You're not alone. This is help. There are people who care. If you're in a crisis, please reach out. Call your parent helpline, your local mental health support, or talk to someone you trust. Even if it's not you, if it's someone you may know who's struggling, please reach out. Okay? If this story moved you, please share it. Let's break the silence about financial despair and offer kindness before it's too late. Call a crisis line, talk to a friend. You matter more than you know. Make sure you like and share this video. Someone you know might be silently struggling. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. Subscribe for more financial awareness, life stories, and real advice.